Okay, hi everybody. Now this tutorial that we are having now is character animation, which is your next exercise, exercise 02. I'll just want to show you the script. Sorry, not the script. The assignment brief. Um, where is it? Hold on, let me check. It should be in the sorry about that. 10 intro. Okay. Alright, got your assignment brief here. I'm going to post it up as well together with this tutorial. So, yes, this is your assignment brief, okay? And it is about character animation. Now, why is it important to learn character animation? Is because you might require it when you're doing motion graphics in future, because sometimes some sequences or even videos like the one I showed you the other day in class, there will be some character animation involved, okay? And so your task is to create a character that you of your own, okay, and to animate it. All right, it should be humanoid, meaning it should have like an anatomy of a human being, not so much like an insect, or at least anthropomorphic, which means any kind of character that has like 2 legs, 2 hands, just to keep it simple, a head on top. The amounts and the parts and the segmentation will be shown to you in this tutorial video. Alright, and the sequence for this assignment is 10 seconds or longer, which means it is minimum. Okay, your character can be doing anything you imagine. It can be walking around looking for something, trying to catch a butterfly. It should be a movement that is meaningful, not just standing there and just floating about or just walking. Keep your movements varied to show your skills in character animation. It means that in the whole 10 seconds, don't just have your character just walking left and then walking right and then jumping, or just jumping. Have variations, have it do something like it's telling a story, okay? So these are some tips I've included, and also keep in mind that you should have some pre-production. Now the points here are lesser than the first assignment for pre-production, because all you need is really a thumbnail storyboard, but another 10% actually goes into your design, so I will take into account how much effort you put into your character. Then of course 40% for motion, which has to do with the timing of your motion, the principles of animation, and also the performance, which has to do more about the actions, the poses, like I said just now, whether or not your character is doing something meaningful rather than just walking left, walking right. Okay, so the tutorial, this is due on week 7, prior to the tutorial session. Okay, so that's your assignment brief. Now what I have here are 2 characters, okay? I will show you how they are prepared in Photoshop. I will not show you the preparation as in how I drew them, but I will show you what the file looks like. Okay, now in Photoshop I have here a 1920 1080 dimension, and I drew Steven. Well, I call this character Steven. Let's call this guy Steven. He's a guy in a sweater and jeans, some sneakers. So I drew him last night, and he basically is segmented in such a way where he has like one arm here, one arm here, and I've labeled them. Look at this: man underscore hand right, hand left. Same goes with leg left, leg right. Okay, so I have laid them out in such a way where he's all quite well organized. I want his left hand to be in front of his sweater, and his right hand to be behind his body. You can see it intersects. When it intersects, it goes behind. Same goes with his his right leg is in the, you see, is that at the back of the left leg, which is this one. Okay, so and his head and torso is one piece. The only thing that is not on drawn onto his torso is actually his eyes. Yeah, I made two sets. Basically, I made well, I got his eyes closed, which is one layer, man, eyes closed. Then there's eyes and eyelids, which when these two are on, I can animate them like looking left, looking right, okay? Yeah. And of course his eyebrows, in case I want to just do like some animation with his eyebrows. Okay, so that's how it is for Steven. Well, let's just call him Steve. And the other thing I have here is a robot. I've called him Kwa Kwa, alright, just for fun. But basically he has different parts than Steve. Okay, now how you name your file is really up to you. You do not need to necessarily name it man underscore right brow. You can name it according to your own format, but just make sure that you name them in an organized fashion that is easy for you to refer. I've named the Kwa Kwa with a different format. R in front represents robot, okay, which is what he is. And then I've got, instead of writing down the word LT at left, I put LT fingers, which is his left finger. So immediately I know these are his left fingers. Okay, so his segmentation is a bit more different. He has more parts. His head is one piece, his neck is one piece, his body is one piece, his upper arm is one piece. So Kwa Kwa has a lot more segmentation compared to Steven. Okay, Steven has a lot lesser, as you can see from the amount of layers, whereas Kwa Kwa has a lot more different layers. Okay, he has got feet, and his shin area, or his lower leg, his upper leg. So it's a lot more different. Okay, but I'm going to why do I have two different characters is because I want to show you actually how there are two different ways of actually rigging this character with DUIK, okay, which is what you need to download from the site in which I will attach with this tutorial as well. Okay, so I've shown you the Photoshop file, and I will give you this file in order for you to facilitate in doing your tutorial at home. Okay, and I've also animated this character. For example, like Kwa Kwa, I've kind of just done a little bit of animation of him waving his hand. Yeah, see? Okay, now I will not show you directly how to animate. I will show you how to basically move the character after we're rigging, but the main focus of this whole tutorial is really to rig a character. Okay, when I say rig a character, I mean, okay, how do you spell it? Remember in class I mentioned the word rig. Rig is basically like to set up a character, right? So what we're going to do here is rig, R-I-G, okay? A character. It's kind of like setting up the bones and everything. Okay, so let's start. I just saved this project. I'm going to start a new project so that we can start with a clean slate. Okay, we start by creating first in your project a 01 PSDS or AI folder. Let's make this a habit to always create this organized filing structure. Okay, and then pre-con. Okay, so you should always have these two folders first. PSD is where you import in all of your PSD folders or all your PSD files. So I'm going to import it in right now. The file I want to import in is characters, and obviously this one is going to be composition retain layer sizes. Okay, now before I import it in, look at my Photoshop file. You will notice that I have one folder called Kwa Kwa and the other one called Steven, and these contain all the separate layers. Okay, so there are two folders and the background. Now look, when I import this file in, composition retain layer sizes, open, composition retain layer sizes again. Okay, if you look at the folder, the two things that have been imported in is, first, you will, like I mentioned before, you will always have a folder with all the Photoshop layers inside and a composition made for you, named after the Photoshop file. Okay, but what you will find when you have a Photoshop file where you have two folders inside, you will have also two extra compositions named after those two folders. So I will use this to rig the character. So I'm going to select Steven, hold down my alternate key and Quaqua, and drag it to the pre-comp. I do not think I need this one, which has both these pre-compositions inside. Okay, I will just delete this. Okay, so this is what you should end up with. You have actually, I think it's better. I noticed they did not actually segment the folder which I want. So I will make another folder called Quaqua and put all those with R underscore into this folder, because those are the parts that belong to Quaqua. And then I will make one for Steven, and I'm going to load all of this man into Steven's folder. I noticed this part, this pelvic, is supposed to belong to Quaqua, so I'll put it there. I won't be using this background, it's a plain white thing, so just throw it away, delete it. Now, the easier, well, I find that both characters, you might be asking which is easier. They are both different. I wouldn't say one is easier than the other. One does have more steps, but the effect is a lot more different. Okay, I'll show you in a while. But both uses DUIK, which is the extra plugin you need to install. Okay, now close the DUIK. Now, for Quaqua, okay, the first thing to rig, how to rig a character, is you need to parent the parts together. Remember we learned about parenting the other day? So the first thing you need to parent, let's start in a very organized fashion. The key to rigging is organization. You need to be very neat. You need to be very focused as well, so that you do not become too messy when you're rigging a character. Okay, so we start with Quaqua. What I will parent first is his eye. Actually, he has an eye which I've painted separately as a different layer, because what I want to do is if in case I can control his eyeball to move like that, yeah, rotate. So I'm going to parent the eye obviously to the head, because the eye belongs to the head. Now, the next thing I want to do is something that I'm going to do very quickly and very easily, which is to move the anchor point of all the body parts. Okay, every single body part, you know that their anchor point by default usually is in the center. So I will now need to move it to a different location where the body part is anchored to. Okay, for example, the head is connected to the neck here, so I'm just going to press Y and move the anchor point here for the head. For the neck, I'm just going to use this. I'm still at the Y mode. I've not pressed V yet. I'm going to move this neck down here because it's basically pivoted or anchored here. Then I'm going to go to the torso and move it down here because it's going to be connected to the hip. Okay, now the hip I'm not going to move because that's usually the center of the entire body. Next, I'm going to go to the arm, the left arm, and I'm going to move this up to the shoulder, this to the elbow area, to the fingers, the edge of the fingers, or rather the wrist. Same thing, I'm going to click on this, I'm going to click on this, yeah, click on the arm and move it somewhere here. You can't see it, but you can imagine that it's behind. Okay, next we're going to go to the leg, click on the leg, move it here for the thigh, move the pivot point of the shin to the knee, and then the foot from the center to here. Same goes with this other leg. So very quickly I'm going to move all of them. So now you have them all moved already. What you can do now is parent them. Okay, so you know the head is parented to the neck because basically the neck controls the head, right? The neck is the parent. Wherever the neck moves, the head will have to move. Okay, and the neck is then parented to the torso to the pelvic. Okay, next we're going to do the arms. So press V, sorry, just to get rid of the anchor point mode. Choose the left fingers, parent it to the lower arm. The lower arm is connected to the upper arm, and therefore the upper arm is connected to the torso, which is the torso. This is your torso. Then I'm going to go and do the other arm. So fingers, right fingers to right lower arm to right upper arm. Okay, and right upper arm to torso. Feet, right feet to shin, shin to thigh, and then thigh to pelvic, right? Because it's tied to the pelvic area. So same thing for left feet to shin, shin to thigh, thigh to pelvic, which now leaves pelvic with no parent. Now pelvic ideally has no parent because it is the center. So you move the pelvic bone, the entire character now moves, right? Okay. If you were to move, say, the torso, everything else parented to the torso will move. Okay, but you can't animate it yet. It's not fully rigged. What you have done is you've set up the initial parenting rig, but now you need to do the DUIK rig. Okay, now how do you do that? You have to start up DUIK after you've installed it. How do you locate it? You go to Window and go to DUIK.jsx. Okay, and you have it load, and you should get a window something like this. Okay, I'm going to just put this, say, here with character because I'm not going to be using characters. We're not doing any fonts. So when they say character, it does not mean character, it means font. Okay, so DUIK, I will launch DUIK. You should get something like it's preparing, it will load, and let's readjust. If you find your panels a bit cumbersome, you can rearrange them according to the way you like. You can even shrink and squeeze them down by just going to the border and adjusting this, or adjusting this if you want. Okay, now the first step, what we're going to do is, I think the easiest one to see is the arm. Okay, so let's just start with the left arm. Okay, we're going to select fingers, lower arm and upper arm. Now we're going to select fingers because that's where you want one of your controls to be. What you need to do is in the DUIK controller or this DUIK interface, you need to select controller. You need to create a controller with your fingers, okay, with the left fingers. Okay, so I'm going to, while this is being selected, go to controllers, and this should appear. Okay, it will state the size of the controller, whether you want small, medium or big. I choose small. Okay, I think it should be sufficient. It will give you the size of the controller. What is this? Is the size of the controller you are creating. Small is relatively sufficient for you to make to move around. The color of the controller, you can assign different colors to different parts. Like I'm going to assign green color for all the hands, for both the hands. I'm going to press OK and create. Okay. Once I've done that, see, this is small. I think M would give you, medium would give you slightly something larger, and large would be really huge, which you don't really need. Okay, so I've got C. You see there's a word C in front now. That means controller. Okay, I'm going to select this and bring it down to here. And I'm going to select all of the arm. Okay, all the way. Fingers, lower arm, upper arm, including the controller. So I click on this, hold down my shift key and click on upper arm, and it should select all of this. the next step is press IK on the DUIK interface. Once you press IK, it says do two layer IK goal, create. Okay, once you have done that, you roll over the green controller, this circular thing here, and you will notice that you can start to move the character. Okay, and the rest of the parts will automatically move. Like, it's a bit like if you know wayang kulit, then you should be able to understand how this works. See, it already starts moving. All right, now let's try and do it now with the same thing with the leg. Okay, so the left feet is where the controller should be, usually at the end of the appendage. Okay, so like the leg, usually the controller would be the feet. Okay, so I'm going to select feet. Now I'm going to repeat the same process, click on controller, but this time I'm going to select something blue for the feet and press create. The controller for the the robot's left feet is created here. I'm going to bring this down to this area here where all of the left feet or left leg components are. The feet, the shin, and the thigh. Yeah, feet, shin, and thigh. I'm going to select all of that, hold down my shift key, and press IK again. IK, two layer IK goal, create. Okay, click on create. Then when you click on the controller, you can see that the limb is now moving. Okay, so you can start animating the leg already. Okay, but I suggest you not do that. Set up the whole character first. Okay, next I'm going to do something different. I won't show you the other hand because it's the same thing, but I'll show you the head, which is essentially also the same few steps. Now the head is going to be the controller, so I'm going to create controller. Okay, I'm going to use red this time because it's the head, and press create. So the controller is there, controller robot head. So the head with the neck, the head, neck, and torso. The torso is the third part. Okay, so I'm going to hold down my shift key and click on neck, and the other one, which is torso down here, I'm going to hold down my control key and click here. So you skip all of this and click here by holding down your control button on your keyboard. Okay, if you do not hold down control and you hold down shift, you will notice that everything in between gets selected. But if you hold down shift and click on neck, and then you hold down control and click on torso, you can skip. Then of course the next step is to press IK, press create. Alright, so now when you move this, okay, you'll notice that, oh, it can dance. Okay, so you've rigged the upper body. Alright, so at this point of time, I'm going to stop speaking because I'm just going to rig the remainder two limbs and then show you the rest of the steps. Okay. Okay, I have just completed rigging the other two limbs, which was pretty fast. Yeah. Now there are still some steps you need to do before you can start animating it. Now, if you notice, the amount of layers or components that you have now on your timeline is very, very complex. Obviously, you want to clean this up. Now, how do you clean this up? Okay, you have some parts that you don't really need to see anymore, but you still need to have it in the layer. For example, all the Photoshop layers, the one with the stars are the controllers. Those you need to animate. So you need to retain those, but the Photoshop ones, you don't really need it. Okay, so now how do you hide something but still want to maintain it in the timeline or in this composition? It's very simple. What you need to do is, you see this little guy here is actually, if you look at the icon up here, there's this one guy with his nose sticking out on the table, like he's really shy, he's hiding behind the table. So what happens is, what you need to do is you click, for example, you want to hide this left upper arm, you click on the icon, you see he has, it seems that tiny icon, he has gone back behind the table. So if you do it for the rest, and you click on this, hides all layers for which the shy switch is set. So when you click on that, all of those layers are not deleted, they are just hidden. Okay, so we're going to do the same for the head, the neck, all of the left leg components, the torso, the pelvic, I think not yet, the arm and the other leg, the right leg. So now you've cleaned up quite a bit. I'm not going to go switch off the eye, because I think you still need to control the robot's eye, Quaqua's eye. Okay. Now for the pelvic, why I didn't close it down yet is because I still want to create a controller for the pelvic, because it is the center point and it has no parent. So I'm just going to create a controller for it. So I'm just create a controller, probably have it gray, dark gray, medium size, and press create. So there it is. You've got the pelvic controller, and you can switch this to shy now. Okay, and the last controller you need to create is the master controller, which controls the location of the entire character's body. Okay, let me just rig this before we continue completing rigging it before we start we create the master. Now even these controllers need to have a parent. For example, the head should be parented by right to the pelvic controller, because wherever the pelvic goes, the head goes, right? It's like, imagine wherever your hip goes, it brings your head along with it, right? So basically the head should be parented to the pelvic. Okay, the left and right fingers, they should also be parented to the pelvic, or in this case you could even choose not to parent to a controller. You can choose to parent to a Photoshop file, which in this case could be the torso. So you don't see it anymore, so you can't use the whiplash tool. So what you can do is select here and go and choose our torso. Okay, the next thing you need to do is, yes, now you can create the master, what you call the master controller. You duplicate the pelvic controller, which has no parent. Yeah, so I'm going to control D, hold down control and press D. There's pelvic 2. Now I'm going to rename this, press enter and press C_master. Okay, once you've done that, take this controller, which is here, and move it down. Move the master controller down to where the feet are. Okay, and this will then become the master controller for all the 2 feet and the pelvic. Okay, so wherever you go with oops, I think there's still something wrong. The pelvic should be controlled to the master. Let's Yes, the pelvic Photoshop layer, whenever you have the PS icon, should also be parented to the pelvic controller. Then it will work. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so yeah, all right. So once you create the controller for the pelvic, remember to parent the Photoshop layer, which is this pelvic Photoshop layer, to this controller. Okay, all right. So once you've done that, you shy away all the layers. This is what you should be left with: the head controller, the left and right LT, RT, the left and right arm or fingers. Okay, you control the fingers, you control the arm. You've got the pelvic bone. Okay, you can rearrange this, it doesn't matter now. The controllers don't really affect the layering of the character. The Photoshop layers do. You've got the left feet and the right feet. Okay, so now this character is ready to be animated. Okay, so if I were to move the pelvic, you can see that the character can move like that. Okay, but if I move the master, okay, the entire character moves. Okay, so if you want to make it jump from off screen, you can move the master. All right, if I move the pelvic upwards, actually it might be better. Let's try parenting the left and right feet to the pelvic and see what happens. Or doesn't really work very well. I think the left and right feet are better off parented to the master. Okay, all right. So now if you notice, when I move my character and when I stretch the arm too much, okay, this becomes disjointed. There becomes space in between. Now if you do not want that to happen, click on RT fingers, which is the entire right arm, and press F3. You will notice that this controls come up. Okay, the effect controls. DUIK rigging is a type of effect control. So there will be controllers for it. Now, in order to disable this, you go to stretch, okay, and deselect auto stretch. All right, so no matter how far you stretch the controller, the body part will never disjoint, if that's the kind of look that you're going for. But if you don't mind having a little bit of a, careful not to stretch this controller. Always press the center to control it. Now if you want a bit of stretch and that's what you're looking for in this robot, then go ahead. Now with the fingers, it's a bit weird. You can see that his fingers kind of stay that way. Now to animate, it's very simple. The controllers that you can bring out is P and R. Hold down the shift key and press R. Okay, so what you have is, if you keyframe position and say in 2 seconds bring the arm to the front, that's what it will do. In 2 seconds it will stretch his arm out like that. Okay, yeah. And if you rotate, say for instance at 2 seconds the fingers are like that, but at 0 you want the fingers to go up, so it will do that. See? Okay, so that's just very basic how you can animate the character. Yeah, it's all about creating keyframes and adjusting the limbs. Alright, it's a lot more easier to animate this way. Okay, so now you understand how to rig a full character with all of these different parts, even the head. See how you control the head. Actually moves the entire body, alright, for you, which makes it a lot more convenient. Notice wherever the torso tilts towards, your both hands also tilt, because both the arms are connected to the torso. You've parented it to the torso. Okay, so it does that automatically for you. Okay, so this is one character. Now let's go to the other character, Stephen. The method used is almost the same, but there's a little bit extra. Okay, that's why if you ask me which is simpler, I kind of think that both have its strength and has, well, not to say weakness, has its different qualities. Okay, so the steps just now was considered quite easy. Now this one, though the character is a lot more simpler, if you remember, Steven has a lot lesser layers compared to Kwa, right? Look at that for Kwa, look at that for Steven. You'll notice that the steps I'm going to do for Steven is a lot longer. Okay, let me demonstrate. We started off with the hand, just now we're going to start with the hand again. Now, we have chosen Steven's hand, but in this case, we do not actually need to move the anchor point. Okay, but what we need to do is create pinpoints. Alright, how do we do that? You look at this thumbtack icon here, puppet pin tool. You need to go there, click on that, zoom into his arm. Okay, make sure his left hand is being selected, and pin on 3 different parts. His shoulder, somewhere there, his elbow, and his hand. Okay, once you've done these 3 pins, you'll notice that this has come up. Effect, puppet. You have made his hand kind of like a puppet tool. Okay, now you can actually start moving his hand now. Previously you can't. For example, if you look at this leg, it's stiff, right? But with the puppet pin, you can. Okay, so let's go reset that. Now you'll see that you have mesh right now. If you lower your mesh and go to deform, you'll notice you have puppet pin 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 1 is the shoulder, which is highlighted, 2 is now the elbow, and 3 is the hand. Okay, so what you need to do now is select all these 3, puppet pin 1, 2, 3, and go to DUIK and go and create bones. Click on bones, and you will notice that these 3 red squares would have come up. What do these red squares mean? They are kind of null. Okay, they are like an invisible bone that you can't see. Alright, now for puppet pin 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to rename them because it's going to get confusing if I don't know what they are. So I'm going to press enter to rename them. Puppet pin 1 is Steve's left shoulder, sorry. So I'm going to put L shoulder. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter for this one, which is his elbow, L elbow. Okay, and then press enter again, L hand. Alright, so you've got these 3 now. Now what I need to do is, while selecting L hand, which is a bone for the hand, I'm going to create a controller, say dark gray, small size, probably not dark gray, let's use green for the arm, okay, like we did with Kwa. Then press create. Okay, so the controller there is created now. So what do you think you need to do next? Is pretty much the same like you did for Kwa. You select this, and you need to make sure that you need to parent the hand's bone to the elbow's bone, from the elbow's bone to the shoulder bone. Okay, then select all of these 4 components, alright, and press IK, create. Alright, so you get the hand. Oops. Okay, now this is interesting. His hand is not really bending the way I want it to. Okay, it's bending backwards. So what I need to do now is press F3 for the controls to come out. Alright, just now we played with stretch, right? But now I'm going to press clockwise because I want it to bend the other way around. So I press clockwise and his hand is corrected. Yay, okay? He no longer has a broken arm. All right, so same with stretch. If you do not want his hand to be able to stretch like that, okay, what you can do is deselect auto stretch, and forever his hand will stay that size. But with animation, I think a little bit of stretching could be nice. All right, so it's quite simple. It's the same steps. It's just an additional method of creating the puppet pin on the layer of the Photoshop file, and then creating the bones and making the bones part of the IK. Alright, now with his torso, you notice that it's like this. So I've got 3 parts that I will make for his character. Zoom in, okay, puppet pin. I'm gonna do his head, alright, his chest or torso, and then his hip. Okay, so 3 parts. Go down here to the mesh one, go to deform. So I've got 3 puppet pins again. Hip 3, 2 is his torso, 1 is his head. Okay, so I'm going to select all of this. What's the next step? Create the bones. Alright, then you have to rename the bones, which is first you've got the hip. Well, he has only 1 hip, so I won't put L or R. Then I press enter, torso, and then I press enter, head. Alright, so I need to parent now the head to the torso to the hip. Okay, and the next thing I need to do is select the head's bone, create it or make it a controller. This time I'm going to make it, say, red in color, small size. Press OK. So I've got the red head controller here. So what I'm going to do is, whenever you create a controller, it usually appears right on top, okay, of all the layers. So you go to the top, get it down to where you want it to be, say around here. Select the head, controller, torso, head, hold down the control key. There should be hip. Oh, okay, it's here. Sorry, all 3 of them are here. So you select all of this 4 items, 3 of the bones and the controller, and hit IK and create. Alright, so once you've done that, you notice that his body can do that. Now, I don't really want his body to do this, unless you want a character that's always kind of slouching. What I would like him to do is bend more forward. So I'm going to uncheck this and make it go clockwise, so he's always like very happy. Okay, yeah. Alright, so you've got that. The rest of all the limbs is pretty much the same. I'm going to just repeat one more with the leg. Use the puppet pin tool, hip, knee, foot. Go down to mesh, deform. Make sure when you put the puppet pin, you have selected the layer of that object you want. Okay, select all of this, make it into bones. Puppet pin 1 is the left hip, left knee, and left foot. So the foot is connected to the knee to the hip. Okay, and then the foot will become the controller. We used glue just now, I think. Create, and the controller will appear on top. Bring it down. Now select all these 4 items, all the 3 bones in the limbs and the controller, and then press IK. Create. Let's check if it's rotating in the right direction. No, his leg is broken, so obviously click on this and it will go in the right direction. Okay, so that's how you animate or rig Steve. Okay, I'll stop speaking now, speed up the video, and just quickly do the other 2 limbs. Okay, I think I've gotten all of his parts working already. So his arms can move and both his legs can move. All right, now careful. All right, so now I can clean up and do the final setup for his character. Now again, you have got lots of layers that you don't necessarily need. Okay, well, his right and left brows I will keep, so I will not shy those out. The lids I will keep, the eyes as well. Now what I don't need are the bones, well, a majority of the bones. Okay, um, but before I shy them out, there are some bones that don't have a parent yet. For example, the left hip and the right hip. Now what should they be parented to? Okay, if you go to what they should be parented to is actually the hip. Okay, but I will create a controller for the hip like I did just now with the pelvic. Okay, hip, pelvic, same thing. All right, so I click on the hip. I'm going to create a controller, gray one. All right, a little medium size, and I've got the hip controller. I bring it down somewhere near the hip, and I'm gonna parent the bones of the left and right hip. Okay, so I've got the left hip. I'm gonna parent this to the hip controller, and then I will also go to the right hip bone and parent that to the hip. So now I can shy out everything relating to the legs. Okay. Okay. The next thing I want to shy out are the hands. Okay. Now with the hands, the part that does not have the parent are the shoulders, the left shoulder and the right shoulder. Left shoulder, right shoulder. Now what I will parent these guys to is the torso bone. Okay, and to make sure that I'm gonna parent these to the torso, I'm gonna use the whiplash torso. Okay, so wherever the torso goes, the two hands will also go. Okay, but my torso is also connected to the hip, and this hip will go where the hip controller goes. So whenever your hip is going, technically your hand should also go, but they're not doing that yet. Oh, that's because the shoulder is connected to the torso first. Let's see. Oh. Now the hand controllers, that's the problem. The hands also need to be parented to a parent. Now you need to select both the hand controllers and have them connected to the torso. Okay, as well. So the hand controllers and the shoulders should be parented to the torso, which are connected to the hip. Okay, I know it's a bit confusing, but if you know your anatomy, it should be okay. All right, there, see, all good. All right, the head should also be connected to the hip. All right, so that wherever the hip goes, the head should go. Okay, and now you can shy out all of the parts that belong to the hand. Okay, see, we're clearing up the layers. The next thing we want to shy out are all the Photoshop layers. But before we do that, we want to make sure that the Photoshop layers are in the correct order, because it does matter, okay, for that. Now, how do I make sure of that? When I bring my arm and I run it past, I need to make sure this arm is behind this leg and this leg. Okay, that's correct. Now, if I take this arm, it should be in front of this leg. Oops. There, you see there's an error there. This arm should be in front of this leg, which is not. So basically I need to readjust the Photoshop layer for this arm, okay, which is the left arm. So I need to take, where is it? His left hand there, this one, and bring it up in front of his left leg. Okay, so I need to bring this up. There, fixed. Okay, now I can shy away my Photoshop layers. Alright. Okay, and these you can shy out to. Before I shy them out, I'm going to create one last master. So the master. Okay, and I'm going to just drag the master. Oops. Oh, I've actually parented the hip, so I'm going to disconnect this and move this. Oh, it's still connected though. Actually, I've made the wrong. I should be creating a master out of the controller. All right. I create the master and bring it down. Okay, I can shy these bones away, and the foot should be parented to the hip, and the hip should be parented to the master. So even with the controllers, they should have their own parents as well. Okay. So if I move the master, everything should move. But if I move the hip, oops. Oh, sorry. Both the foot should be controlled by the master. Alright. In both cases, the hip controller and the foot controller are parented to the master. I think the same goes with Quaqua, right? Yeah, see? The three elements, the feet and the pelvic to the master. Same case here. The feet, both feet, I'm going to just rearrange them. And this, master, master, master. Okay? Can put master on the bottom. Head on top. Hands. Okay, so we are in business. Now, the only other thing that is not parented yet are his features, which you can select all and parent to the head controller. So now wherever the head moves, the features also move. Yay! Okay. Now, you're going to ask, how am I going to animate his face? It's very simple. What I've done is I've made two sets. So like I said just now, got his eyes closed. Alright. And then there are his eyes and his eyelids, right? So let's say I want to make him blink. Alright. So when he blinks, it's kind of a cheat. Okay, you need to select all of these eye layers and press T. And I'm going to hit on the opacity. Alright. At this point, at 121, eyes closed, I'm going to put at 0. So all you will see is the eyes and the eyelids. Right. I'm going to just zoom into the timeline and just move the playback head to 1 frame forward. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the opacity of the eyes and the lids and put this up to 100. So now the lids and the eyes are 0 and the eyes closed is 100. So what you get is this. See, it's like a very snappy animation. Now in order to reverse his eyes open, let's just move it probably a few frames in front. Here I'm going to copy these two keyframes and paste them. Hold my mouse down while it's selected, go to keyframe assistant and time reverse keyframes. Okay? I will do the same, for this two, time reverse keyframe, and these two, copy and paste, time reverse keyframes. Okay? Alright, so what you will have is a character blinking. See? Done. Alright, now you want him to blink continually. All you need to do is copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Now you need to do it one layer at a time. You can't select all and copy and then paste, because what will happen is you would have duplicated another set. So sadly you can't do that. But what you can do is, once you've done 2 sets, you can select 2 now and multiply it. Okay, copy and paste. Now you've got him blinking 4 times, right? And then you can create more by copying it another 4 times, and you've got now 8 times, right? And you can select the sets of where he blinks and move them around. Say if you want him to blink more at 10-second onwards, so have all of this, or maybe after 8 seconds you want him to kind of continually blink a lot. So you select all these sets here and see he'll be blinking a lot more. Okay, so that's how to make him blink. Now, how to create his mouth is a different thing. I will teach you probably in the class because it involves masking. But I think this tutorial at this point of time is enough to teach you how to rig a character. How you animate Steve is pretty much the same way, is via creating keyframes of the controller's position. So if you select the controller right hand, you press P, you create a keyframe, say at 2 seconds, click position. There's a keyframe here now, say at 3 seconds you want his hand to move up. So that's what it does, see? Alright, and if you want him to wave, you can have him wave. Alright, go there, copy these 2 keyframes and just paste them, and he'll go back and forth. Alright, paste it one more time, go back and forth again. Let's play around with the graph editor. Press this. Okay, just maneuver the graph a little bit. Alright, and those of you who know animation principles, by right everything should be moving in arches. Remember arches? So you need to create this curve, and by right these lines should all be curved, but just for the sake of this tutorial, let's make it quick. Preview render. Okay, so you can have him, you see he's very easily animated. Okay, so he's giving a slow goodbye. If you want to make him a fast goodbye, select all these keyframes, hold down your alternate key, click on the last keyframe and squeeze them down. So that's another way to animate to manipulate keyframes. So now when the keyframes are tighter, obviously his wave is going to be a lot faster. See? Okay. Alright, so this is the end of the tutorial. I think it's one of the longer tutorials you have. It's an hour long, but I hope that you will be able to learn a lot from this tutorial. Take your time to watch it. Technically, you have 4 weeks from this week onwards to hand up this assignment. It is due on week 7. But in all honesty, I think you can do this pretty fast. Let's time yourself. You might take, say, a very short while. Let's try and figure out the timing for this. Let's say you spend 1 hour to draw your character. Okay, draw your character. Probably spend 2 hours coloring it. You can do this even by hand if you want, and then scan it in. And then in Photoshop, setup and everything would take you probably another hour very quickly. Okay, which means to create the file like I've done it in this file here, meaning segment it. It should take you an hour. I did these 2 within 1 hour. So just set up in Photoshop. And I think to rig a character should take you, since you're a beginner, let's put 1.5 hours. Okay, rig with DUIK. I did 2 characters within 1 hour of this tutorial. I think you should be able to do at least 1 in 1.5. And the rest is just to animate, right? So this would take you a little bit more time, but if you spend at least 1 hour a day to create the animation, say for 2 seconds, you'll be done in 5 days, right? So I think it's pretty easy. It's something you can do within 2 weeks, but we're giving you 4 weeks. So I want to give you this tutorial now to start you off early, okay? So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. I hope you can understand it. If you don't worry. We will address whatever you don't understand in class, but it's important for you to watch it first. If you try it and you can't, at least you've got some area you know where you can't do, or where you're facing problems with, then at least I can help you with that. Okay, it makes your learning process a lot faster. Okay, so I will end this tutorial now. It's been a long one. I hope you enjoyed it.